Anyway, I'm going to focus on two areas. First, you take notes on these things. I'm going to give you all sorts of little quick tips on how to pitch journalists like me. And second, how to build new and innovative partnerships with the media. And by partnerships, I'm talking about a whole bunch of arrangements between the media and your groups. These are informal. They can be written contract from small, such as just a tiny little promotional ad for free, or how to deal with the media, to huge. We have a 3-year, $7 million partnership with the Pan Am Games. We have partnerships with the Toronto Star, with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, everywhere from the Blue Jays to the Leafs. We have partnerships with small community groups. We have about roughly 100 what I'll call partnerships or sponsorship agreements from across the city and across the region. And these partnerships take the form of us providing editorial coverage, carrying promotional ads in print and online, creating special sections, special reports, promoting awards that you may be doing, events that you may be doing, initiatives that you may be doing, right down to our newest partnership arrangement, which is creating custom content for a fee. So I want to just show you. I was told I couldn't do a PowerPoint, so I'll bring in stuff. Partnerships. We do partnerships all the way from, this is a brand new one with the YMCA of Greater Toronto. We did a special section for them. We have an arrangement with them. They're paying us a small fee. They think it's a big fee. For us, it's a small fee, and we're delivering way over. Partnerships are, this is from the Cancer Society. It's in the Toronto Sun. They're little ones that you can make arrangements with. We do partnerships with nursing associations, special sections. This is another one for the Cancer Society that we've done. They keep coming. This is the one that we did with TRIAC for their immigrant awards. We do special sections for the Toronto Community Foundation, their vital signs. Lots of hospitals. Sick kids. This is a 20-page section that we produce for them. The United Way, we give them special sections. You're going to say to yourself, well, these are huge organizations, and I don't have that sort of money. But for smaller organizations, we do lots of work in terms of small ads that we can promote your event and so on. So after I get finished this presentation, I want you to ask questions. You can ask me any question you want, from why Rob Ford hates the Toronto Star. Did we really see that video? Yes. I didn't, but we did. To what impact the internet and falling ad revenues are having on the media. And that impact is huge. It's totally changing the media industry, and it also directly affects you. At the Star and elsewhere, there are fewer reporters. Our newsroom today, the Toronto Star newsroom, is 1/3 smaller than it was 4 years ago. We're currently in the process of another round of buyouts. Our newsroom at one time was slightly over 400. It's now down to about 260. You're going to say that's a lot of people. We are the largest newsroom in Canada. If we were in the US, we'd be in the top 10. We'd probably be 7th or 8th in terms of circulation. There are fewer news reporters. And there's fewer space, less space. The papers are getting thinner. So there's less space to write about areas that you deal with. Competition for that promotional space is even higher. Now, in the brief description of the literature promoting this session, it asks, can't the media pay attention to your organization? You've heard all the excuses. The media prefers bad news over good news. No space, no time, no bodies. We don't do check presentations. I was the one that posed that question. And why? Because yes, I work at the Toronto Star, but I'm also involved in the nonprofit world. I'm a member of the Patrons Council of the Toronto Community Living Toronto, and I've served on the board of directors of the nonprofit Journalists for Free Expression. I know from experience how hard it is to get the media to pay attention to your group, your initiatives, your events. I've tried at times at the Star to get my own newsroom to pay attention to events and initiatives that my organizations are doing. And frankly, it was embarrassing to have to go back to those groups to say that I made no headway. So I truly do understand your frustration. Having said that, many organizations have fabulous stories to tell, but they tell it badly. So I'm going to give you 5 basic do's and don'ts about how to pitch journalists. And then I want to talk to you about creating partnerships with the media. And throughout this, I want to use the Star's relationship with one of Maytree's own programs, TRIAC, as an example of what I believe is a successful partnership, one that has benefited both the Star and has allowed TRIAC to expand its footprint within its community. And I'll conclude a brief synopsis of how the Star began to work with TRIAC and what benefit the Star derives from this partnership, and how groups, large and small, can approach media companies to be interested in their work. What's the win-win proposition for both sides, and how can groups sustain the relationship with a media partner? Clearly, the goal for TRIAC was to build a stronger partnership with the media to educate and create awareness among the stakeholders in their community on the benefits of hiring skilled immigrants. Our relationship with TRIAC goes back 10 years, where we also have partnerships with numerous NGOs of different sizes, of different areas of interest, of different partnership agreements. These include the YMCA of Greater Toronto, the City of Toronto, actually the city, not the mayor's office, Toronto Public Library, schools, arts programs, film festivals, Japanese Cultural Center, for example, and more. So, 5 easy do's and don'ts about pitching journalists. The do's. 1, respect a reporter's beat and interest in the subject. Ask yourself, why would his or her readers care? Are you pitching him or her because someone told you to? Or do you really think it'll be of interest to readers? You cannot believe how many times I get asked every week to write about something that has no context to what I write about. I write a weekly column as well as doing community relations and communications, and those topics just go everywhere from solar panels and fields to somebody pitching a new product. I don't do that. Tailor, number 2, your pitch to the journalists. It's easy. Start with, Dear Bob. That shows you took 5 seconds to care about me and my time. 3, flattery helps. Read what the reporter is writing about and tell them that you read it. 4, make your pitch concise. A half a screen. Make it human, not artificial. Get to the point. Journalists today they're writing stories for print, online, they're tweeting, they're blogging, they're shooting video. I'll give you an example of a sports reporter today. In the old days, they would go and they would cover the game at night and write a story overnight. Now they go to the morning practice. They tweet from there. They take photos from there. They write for our online websites. In the afternoon, they repeat the process. At night, they're tweeting and blogging during the game, and then they do the interviews afterwards. This is a long way from running one story a day. Include it in 5. Include a photo in the body of the email, if you've got one, if you need one, to describe what it is you're doing. Don't do it as an attachment. I get about 200 emails a day. Most of them I don't open. Now, 5 ways not to pitch me. Don't make phone calls unless you already know me. It's more efficient to send me an email. I got called yesterday by CNN to talk about Rob Ford. I told the producer in Washington, send me an email. We did it. Number 2, don't pitch your entire Rolodex. I'm not interested in emails that tell me something that you're giving to everyone you've ever heard of. And the worst thing I find out is if I've talked to you and I find out you haven't told me, you're also talking to the Globe and Mail. 3, don't talk like aliens. Use English. Skip over the NGO jargon. It makes you look insecure. Number 4, don't paste a press release into an email. At least include a greeting to me. Number 5, don't send me anything by FedEx. And don't try to ask me to meet with me all the time. Reporters don't want to discuss your new branding, your new events, and your strategies. Now you're going to say, well, what's the point of even trying? Anyway, my 5 good ideas. First, as it says there, connect with the gatekeepers. Traditionally, journalists were known as the gatekeepers of news. And of course, with social media, that's all changing. So that phrase is a bit obsolete. But remember this, most people get their news and information from traditional mainstream media, be it print, radio, or television. So get to know the relevant editors, the city editor, the news editors, the editorial page editor, the opinions page editor, the columnist, and the reporters who broadly cover your area. Meet with them before you need them. Get to know the editorial position of the paper or the website. Do your homework. Know how to contact people at the paper, my paper. Ask around. Actually, other NGOs can give you all sorts of advice and have all sorts of contacts. So using TRIAC's example, Elizabeth McIsaac, when she was heading TRIAC, contacted the Star soon after the organization was formed. And she and some members of her team met informally with us about TRIAC. There was no set agenda, and TRIAC knew, though, that the Star has always championed immigrant issues. So they came to us long before they really got going. And we, because there is a context there at the Star, wanted to be part of TRIAC in some way. The second good idea is go local with strong examples. Far too often, NGOs try to score what I'll call the big one. They want to be highlighted in the Globe and Mail, some local paper, or the Star, or they want to be featured on the CBC National or on CTV. Now, getting that coverage is great. It's absolutely fabulous. But getting it is almost impossible to do. My advice, my strong advice, is to focus on obtaining local coverage and forming partnerships with local media. And the more local, the better. That means, for example, with community newspapers, those that land free on your doorstep every week in your neighborhood. It means getting on local TV stations and even cable stations. It will be far easier and bring greater results, whether that's to get more recognition for your group or in raising money. And you need to give those local media outlets good, strong examples of what you do and why it's important. That's what TRIAC did when they met with us early. They explained the troubles that skilled immigrants had finding jobs, and they came with good examples. Now, I love stories. And making an emotional connection with readers, and viewers, and policymakers, and potential donors is essential for you. But it's not enough. What's often missing in many of these stories presented by nonprofits is, what are the underlying causes of the problem or the issue? Also, they rarely assign responsibility for those causes to policymakers and the citizens who elect them. Media outlets, including the Star, love stories about individuals who have faced adversity. But often, far too often, those stories merely provoke a short-term emotional response, which may last only as long as it takes to read the story. They certainly do not result in citizens taking action against the problem or the injustice. Think carefully about the real story you're trying to tell. Help the media. Help us. Ensure that readers and viewers understand their role in righting wrongs and what actions they need to take. Coming back to TRIAC, they gave the Star great examples of the struggles and the successes that immigrants had looking for skilled employment. TRIAC went so far to create its Immigrant Success Awards, and I'm proud to say that the Star has been a sponsor of these awards, or one of these awards, for the past 7 years, or at least I think it's 7 years. This is what we call a win-win for TRIAC and the Star. TRIAC sees real progress in the hiring of skilled immigrants, and the Star gets to play a small role in that, and gets to run great stories in special sections and pages that we publish about the event. My third good idea is, don't wait for a crisis. Now, many of you are probably thinking, why do you even put that as an idea? It's so obvious, it shouldn't even be talking about it. Well, you'd be shocked at how many people from nonprofit groups contact the media only in a crisis, trying to find a reporter who will talk to them about some major issue, or, as happened last week with me, trying to get free advertising for a golf event that was going to be held this week. You need to know well in advance which reporters at the Star or your local newspaper or radio station or wherever you may be dealing with, and you need to have introduced yourself in advance. As for the promotional side, our budgets and space allocations are done months in advance. If you call us in a crisis, looking for help for your golf tournament, you're likely going to be frustrated, disappointed, and angry. Have a media strategy in place. Set goals about what the campaign is about. Have something to say. What's the message? Make judgments about what's important and what's not. And build a relationship with the media and meet the press regularly, even off the record. Started meeting with members of community foundations from around Toronto area. We started about a year ago, and this is a relationship we hope to build over the years. It takes a long time to get that trust on both sides, but you need to do it. You need to find out who it is that you're going to deal with at some local outlet. My fourth good idea is to propose realistic and relevant solutions. Going back to the stories you tell, your story, to be effective, must call people to action and must propose solutions. Without such a call or proposal, all you have delivered is entertainment. Your story must have a point, and that's that action must be taken, or there will be more stories just as you have told. Connect people with hope. Connect them to a solution. And this applies to partnerships as well. Again, going back to our TRIAC partnership, For a number of years, we've produced a special section on the IS Awards and printed thousands of extra copies that Triac placed all over the city. Triac now paid us some money for it to do this, but we made no profit on it. We ran off, as I say, thousands of extra copies, and we didn't make a penny off it, not to say that we should. Several years ago, Triac had a lot of its federal funding cut, which meant they could no longer support the section. We wanted to maintain that partnership, and Triac came to us with a solution that worked for both of us. It was to shift much of the content to our website and our social media platforms, eliminate the section, and reduce the number of promotional ads about the awards. It was a realistic solution to a real problem that Triac had, and it worked for both of us. So you got to come with solutions, just don't be waiting for us. My fifth good idea is easy, and that's to be flexible. As I mentioned earlier, the media business is undergoing a radical transition. In many cases, it is painful, such as when we buy out staff in our editorial, and our advertising and promotional departments. But part of that transition has been the blurring of the lines between our editorial and advertising and promotional departments, as well as the development of custom content divisions that produce news and information that you pay for and that you control. Radna came to me at one point when I was making another presentation to one of the Maitree people and said she had been contacted by a group at the Star called Star Content Studios about doing just this, which is paying for content that you can that you control, that's written by people who work for one of the divisions of the Toronto Star, not our editorial people. And she said, "Is this a good deal?" And I said, "Well, let me look into it." Well, it depends. Until just a few years ago, there was an unwritten rule, and I mean it was a rule, that the journalist in the Star newsroom never spoke with the employees in the department that sold advertising for the newspaper. They didn't speak to the people in the promotions department who worked with private companies and NGOs like you in the community. Today, that rule barely exists. Now, that doesn't mean that the walls of independence with the newsroom are collapsing. That concern is as important as ever, especially as news organizations seeking new revenue streams, more money, move more aggressively into custom publishing, develop new forms of advertorial and infotainment, and forge partnerships with non-news organizations centered on news events or issues. At the Star, the people in charge of Star Content Studios, which produces paid content for private companies as well as NGOs, such as the YMCA of Toronto, believe that there are ways paid content and journalism can make each of you better. Decades ago, we and other papers in the cities had reporters who'd cover Eaton's. That's the store, not the family. And everything from fashion to trends. And those reporters, and they were they were always women. If they fell behind in terms of the number of stories, then they got a visit from the advertising manager. And suddenly, within days, there'd be a big feature about something great and glorious that Eaton's was doing. Now, I tell this story from decades ago because it seems to me that in the debate about branded content, also known as native journalism, custom publishing, call it what you want, we keep asking the wrong question. That question isn't, how did we wander so far from the idea of a totally independent newsroom? We keep forgetting that we have always been where we are now, even at the Star, that is, standing at what I'd say is a delicate intersection where great journalism and great advertising and great promotion and great coverage of partnerships like yours meet. The better question is, how can journalism and paid content is the big push now by all media, everywhere from newspapers. We have a section, as I said, we have Star Content Studios, the Globe has it, Global Television has the same thing. Others respect, and how to make each other better. Branded content now coexists within most news organizations. Whether it should is past its asking date. It has to if news media is to survive. And we're really talking about survival of news media. What does it mean for branded content to respect journalism? Like any relationship, the rules are pretty simple, but not always easy to follow. First, if you get into that field, don't trick anyone. Tell your audience what you're doing. Second, tell your stories, and they are your stories, because readers will leave you if you're not interesting. If you want to do good branded content, borrow from the best practice of journalism. Tell stories that have urgency, that are timely, that have tension, and that connect with what is going on around us in the community. You need to report, research, and get your facts straight. You need to be honest, keep your content standards high. Write or video your heart out, and present the story with flair that will attract and delight readers and encourage them to pass it on. I'm sure you've seen dozens of special sections that are produced, and I'll say by the National Post, that your eyes glaze over. You need to present interesting content with flair. Is it the same as regular journalism, where you get a reporter to write a story about your great event? No, certainly not. It is often more transparent. A lot of so-called journalism is, in fact, honestly, tailored to attract sponsors and advertisers. Is it good content? It better be. Or branded content will simply be the next flash in the tarnished old pan and will change the way partnerships and sponsorships with media and groups like yourself. So I'm looking forward to talking with you, discussing, and to your questions. And as I said, you could ask me questions about anything dealing with the Star, and because we're an intimate group here, I'll be honest, unfortunately they're televising it, so I'll have to cut that out. Thank you in advance for your ideas. Appreciate talking with you. Thank you.